What is going on, everybody? GamersGoon here today with your 53-man update from the preseason game for the Chicago Bears. I attended this game, so some of the minute things, like the offensive lineman, I might not have been able to catch everything. I didn't go back and watch the game um a second time, but let's get into it. And I realized I didn't convert over. There we go. There we go. Um, so we'll save the depth chart. We'll save the depth chart for later, because the 53 man is slightly. Just go here. Just go here. Thank you. Thank you. The 53 man, obviously after the the preseason game is gonna always change, and it's gonna change all the way up until week 3. And the guys in bold are guys I think that stock rose based off what we saw. For example, Roshan, I don't think even logged a single snap. It was mostly Manungai. Um, but Roshan, he didn't have to. He didn't have to, which to me means, hey, Roshan's probably safe. We saw a lot of Manungai. I think he had about 6 carries for 30 yards, about 5 yards a carry. Very productive in his day. So I think he pretty much just sealed his deal there. And I still think this Bears team will probably keep 4 running backs. That's why Travis Homer is still penciled in for now. Um, Special teams guy. I don't really know how much of an impact he'll have on the offense, but when I do look at this running back room, you obviously have Swift, who can be somewhat of a big play threat, and then Roshan and Manungai are just both really strong and patient runners. I don't necessarily think either of them have that explosion to their game. Now, as a guy like Ian Wheeler or even a guy like Deon Hankins, who both I thought had solid outings. I think Deion Hankins definitely had the upper hand on Ian Wheeler. Ian Wheeler, I think there was a I can't remember if it was Ian Wheeler or not, but I think there was a play that got called back, and Ian Wheeler probably went for about 10, 15 yards, got called back. But Deion Hankins was involved in the pass game, was involved in the run game. I was pleasantly surprised with him. Is he a guy that could potentially take Travis Homer's spot? I don't know. But Hankins, Wheeler, Travis Homer, in my opinion, all fighting for that last spot there at the running back room. But I do think Manungai and Roshan are pretty much safe from what we saw yesterday. The receiver room, pretty much the same guys outside of our receiver 6, Devin Duvernay. He was involved a lot on special teams. He was out there a pretty good chunk of the first half. Devin Duvernay just, I don't think there was anything there. There was no concerns about him just not performing. I think Devin Duvernay is pretty much a lock. I really do. He's probably the lowest lock guy I have in the green, but I think Devin Duvernay is safe. And this receiver 6, man, is tough. It's tough. We have a lot of receivers on this team. Miles Boykin, the guy I had penciled in, he is injured, which obviously, unfortunately for him, is something that could keep him off of the 53 man. Is he somebody that you maybe put him on the IR or whatever? I don't know. But Boykin did not play. But Jade Walker was real impressive, and he's a guy that's 6'3", 4'4" speed. I think that there's a lot of potential there with Jade Walker. He did drop I was texting my friends during the game as well, since I was there. I was like, no, my favorite UDFA just dropped his ticket to the 53 man because he dropped a touchdown back of the end zone. Contested catch, but he dropped it. Then he comes back and is our most productive receiver of the day. How many yards was that touchdown? I don't. It was probably about 10 to 15. It might have been longer than that. Let's see what it was. Jade Walker, 14 yards, so definitely in that 10 to 15 range. 14 yards over the shoulder, made a catch. Jade Walker, I think, has some really good speed down the field. I think, yes, he did drop a pass, but I do think he has pretty good hands. I like the size there at 6'3", especially when you don't see Boykin in the preseason. I look at the receivers. Tyler Scott, he played quite a bit, and really nothing happened. Like, I don't even know if let's see if he even logged a stat. Tyler Scott, one reception, 8 yards, just wasn't really involved, which to me kind of signals the writing on the wall. That's what the underlying guys are, is the writing on the wall. I don't think necessarily you proved much, or if there was other people around you that did better, and I think you're continuing to take steps back. And I did kind of skip over the QBs. Tyson Bagent, he is underlined, was not his best game in the preseason. I do think he's still above Case Keenum, but Case Keenum showed out. Case Keenum's going to make it hard to make a decision. Could he fight for a 53-man spot? Do we carry 3 QBs? I think Case Keenum, the way he played, definitely deserves a roster spot. But Bagent, I tend to like what he's capable of, but it wasn't his best game. It wasn't his best game. And then Austin Reed, at best, is on the practice squad. I was not impressed with Austin Reed. But yeah, going back to the receivers, I think Jahdae Walker, probably the most impressive of the bunch that are fighting for a roster spot. Maurice Alexander, another one to watch out for. Got targeted quite a bit, I think 3 or 4 times. Did have a touchdown in there as well. A guy that could potentially steal that 6th receiver spot. But I do think there's only one receiver spot open now that Devin Duvernay kind of feels like a mainstay on the roster. Tight end wise, we got Cole Kmet and Loveland. Loveland, I'll say the same thing that I said to both my friends, my family, everybody that I was talking to about this game. Colston Loveland, like, seeing him in person, the dude's massive. The dude is massive. He's going to be a big time, like, mismatch in the middle of the field. He was standing next to Noah Sewell at one point, and he made Noah Sewell look like not the linebacker of the two. Like, Colston Loveland's, he's built out. I think he's like 6'6". The dude looks the part. So hopefully that is something that he'll be able to put onto the field. Looking the part is only half the step, right? Then Durham Smythe, he was involved. I think he's still safe. I wasn't really too impressed with any of the other tight ends, but Durham Smythe should be safe. I might put Bill Murray in the yellow because I don't even know if he actually logged a snap. Luke Newman, I do know, was out there early on. I think Luke Newman is relatively safe, but once again, you never know. So Luke Newman and Bill Murray, probably the only 2 spots that aren't completely locked up. But I do really like Bill Murray and hope that he is a lock. And Luke Newman, obviously the rookie, you'd think would also be a lock, especially that he is taking snaps at center. Potentially could add some guard center flexibility, might be able to flip both sides. Ryan Bass also took snaps at center during the preseason. So, you're only carrying one center, but you have Newman and you have Bates, who both can step in at a moment's notice. We don't really need to talk about any of these. Are all self-explanatory. We need to bold this man's name. We need to bold Austin Booker's names, and I'm typing it in. 3 sacks. Had a strip sack as well. Austin Booker was really, 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 really good in the preseason game. I mean, obviously, you figure Booker's in there as a depth option. I'm not going to go crazy and say he's going to guaranteed start, but Booker is looking to make a step up. We knew the athleticism with him from last year when we drafted him. Is this the year we finally see the payoff and it starts to be put onto tape? Obviously, it's going to be hard to get in front of Montez Sweat and Dayo Odeyingbo, but Austin Booker definitely going to be looking at one of those maybe breakout candidates on the defensive line. Grady Jarrett, we don't really need to talk much about any of these guys. Shamar Turner, he's a lock for the roster, but he is hurt at the moment, so he might even start the year off. on the injured list. Dominique Robinson, kind of got to see what we kind of knew what he can be. It just never really has amounted to much more than just a depth role, but he did get a sack in the preseason. I think he's going to kind of shore up that last one of the last pass rushing spots on that defensive line. Chris Williams, I did move to yellow. I don't remember if he was in yellow or not. Not entirely sure if we're going to keep that many defensive tackles to know. He did play in the preseason. I just find it hard that you'd cut him, especially because he does have that Dennis Allen connection. TJ Tremaine are safe. Noah Sewell. I don't know. I would have to go back and watch the exact goal line stand, but I could have sworn Noah Sewell had like 3 or 4 like big stops on that goal line stand. Now the fourth down one was obviously the one that has kind of gone viral because Ben Johnson doing the flexing and all that. But I think Noah Sewell was kind of the catalyst for that entire goal line stand, kind of put the team on his back and really helped out there. Noah Sewell he's at a point on this team where it was either make or break kind of this preseason. I mean, you kind of expected him to be the LB3. Noah Sewell is going to take a step. It was quite clear that when Noah Sewell was on the field, other than Austin Booker, he was the best defensive player on the field. Noah Sewell is a guy that might be able to push Tremaine Edmonds for some time. Might be able, I don't know about TJ, but he might be able to push Tremaine Edmonds for some time. And then you got Ruben. I thought he played pretty well. He's a guy that I think is pretty much a lock at this point. And then Eamon Ogbongbemiga. I keep saying I'm not going to say his last name, but for some reason I'm convincing myself that I'm going to. But Eamon did leave the game with injury. Now that sucks, but it's a business at the end of the day. Could eventually cost him his 53-man spot. I don't think it was a sure thing for him to be there. Then we get to the safeties. Safeties, man. 3 are safe. Elijah Hicks, I think, would be safe, but Alex Cook had a good performance, getting a couple fumble recoveries. Major Burns didn't really do much for me, but Alex Cook potentially as a depth spot, or maybe you only keep 3 because Jonathan Owens could play both, but that would be really risking it. The DBs, we did add Nahshon Wright. I think us seeing Nahshon Wright early in that game kind of signaled that Nahshon Wright is in the plans. We also saw a lot of Trey Flowers, but I was not impressed with Trey Flowers. Then Josh Blackwell, obviously a special teams mainstay on this team, but he did get a PBU as well. I think Josh Blackwell is going to make the roster. I'd be shocked if not. So that actually does move a guy like Zoff Frazier, if I can find him. Yeah, Zoff Frazier does move him out of the 53-man right now. He's got to be at practice. Moral of the story: I know there's stuff going on outside of football, but it's a business at the end of the day. You can't keep waiting. If you're the Bears, Nahshon Wright, I think yesterday kind of signaled that as of right now, probably on that 53-man. All right, so we're going to the depth chart now. The depth chart now, you might see some positions like this that have yellow. That's because I think there's potential to maybe add Case Keenum here, but it's not necessarily a guarantee. And a lot of these guys that are also in yellow are guys that I think are kind of borderline, guys that are definitely on the roster bubble and could potentially be cut or moved in a different direction. So quarterback-wise, it's easy. Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent. I know Tyson had a down game. You can't put Tyson on the practice squad. You're not going to cut Tyson. The only thing that I could see potentially happening if Case Keenum really wows you that much is that you trade Tyson. And I don't know if many Bears fans would be happy with that, because Tyson's kind of just been that guy that the fan base has bought into as the backup. And some people crazily think that he could potentially be better than Caleb. Now, I'm not in that camp, but I do really like Tyson. Now, if somebody came calling for like a 4th, 5th round pick, would you trade Tyson? I'm not sure. But if you prefer Case Keenum in that situation, you probably do. You probably do. And I mean, I'm sure people will be upset that you trade him, but you're trading a UDFA for for a draft pick at the end of the day. So, and potentially, if Bagent doesn't make this team, you could see a trade there. Running back wise, Roshan and Manungai are clearing away gonna make the roster at this point. I was kind of skeptical because they're very similar, in a sense that they kind of occupy the same like portion of like why they would be in the game. Swift is obviously safe. Homer special teams role is really what's keeping him in there. But I would like to add some explosive playability that's not DeAndre Swift on that running back room. So we'll see if there's somebody that comes available or somebody like an Ian Wheeler or a Hankins that can separate themselves in the next few games. I still have Travis Homer penciled in because we saw some good stuff out of the two running backs, but I just don't see them jumping over Travis Homer. Receiver, it's DJ, it's Rome. I do have Olamide Zaccheaus above Luther Burden. I think early on in the season he will be on the field more than Luther Burden. Luther Burden did actually have a pretty good game. I think it was only 2 catches, but if it was for about 40-ish yards, he did have one good play where he came back to the ball. Burden, I think, is going to be pretty good as a Bear, but I do think Olamide Zaccheaus does have the advantage to enter the season. Devin Duvernay, no longer on the roster bubble. I think he is safe. Ja'Day Walker, definitely on the roster bubble. The 6th receiver definitely can change, but right now, as I've said, Ja'Day Walker getting the benefit of the doubt. We should probably put Durham Smythe here as well in green. We should probably do that. So those are our tight ends. I think Loveland will be the primary tight end, especially on passing downs, and I think Cole Kmet and Durham Smythe, if there's run plays or a play where you need to chip somebody and go out, I think Smythe and Kmet will get the benefit on that. I think Loveland will be kind of limited in his pass blocking and his run blocking this season. I think he'll be more so your playmaker, your pass catching tight end, whereas the other might be a little bit more blocking oriented. So that answers the tight ends. Right tackle, Darnell Wright, Karan Amagaji. I don't see any reason to change that. I think Darnell actually might be hurt at the moment as well. It was his birthday yesterday. Karan Amagaji, he's going to be on the team. We haven't seen much out of him, though, other than just we spent a decently high draft pick, and people said he was going to be good. Haven't really got the benefits of that just yet. Jonah Jackson, he's going to be a starter. Got him in the offseason. He'll definitely be there. Bates, probably going to be your backup right guard. Could step in at center in a moment's notice. Center, you got Dalman. Obviously, I just talked about Bates. Newman has taken some center snaps, which I think gives him and Bates both, obviously, the benefit of being a little bit more flexible than some other guys. And that will help you get onto the 53-man. But I think Newman there is definitely a candidate on the bubble. Bill Murray, like I said, I think will probably be on the bubble. I think he should be safe, but I think he'll probably be on the bubble. Joe Thuney's safe. Braxton Jones, I think, starts the season off at left tackle. Ozzie Trapillo, though, I need to also put in parentheses here that he's a rookie. Ozzie Trapillo, though, he's coming for it. A lot of people were saying Ozzie had a better performance than Braxton yesterday. I think regardless, I don't know if Ozzie can make enough ground up on Braxton Jones before the season starts. And that I know Braxton's still recovering from injury, and you kind of got to give him like the benefit of the doubt there. But I think Ozzie's definitely going to make it hard. He's definitely going to make it hard. Maybe that's a situation you trade Braxton later in the season. Left end, Austin Booker's name is in green because, geez, he had a good game. Montez Sweat, obviously the starter there at left end. Right end, we have Dayo Odengbo, Dominique Robinson, and I do have Tano in there as a guy that will make the roster. I think he's on the bubble, but I think he'll make the roster, which I didn't update the 53-man for Tano, but I do think he is on the bubble. I think he's safe simply because he does have the the Dennis Allen factor with him, but I would expect him to be on the team. Middle linebackers, we got Tremaine Edmonds and Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell, I think, had a phenomenal game. Definitely somebody that should see an increase in snaps this year. The weak side linebacker, you got TJ Edwards and Ruben Hippolyte, both locks, if you ask me. Amon, I have on the roster bubble. We'll see if he ends up making it. Defensive tackle, Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings, Gervon Dexter, Shamar Turner, all safe. Chris Williams, kind of that extra name that I assume you're going to keep, but might be able to cut one here to maybe add someone somewhere else. Your nickels, you got Kyler Gordon and Josh Blackwell. I think Blackwell is pretty safe, but he's still on the bubble. He's still going to be on the bubble. And then our true DBs, we got Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevens, Terrell Smith, all guys that will easily be on the team. Deshaun Wright, Zoff Frazier obviously is in competition there as well for that fourth DB spot. Free safeties, Byard obviously is going to be the guy. Elijah Hicks on the bubble. I have Hicks on the bubble because I don't think he's necessarily shown a lot, but I don't know. I don't know that there's anybody really ready to take his spot. And then Brisker and Owens are both safe. And the special teamers are all safe. But, yeah, this is kind of the depth chart, what I expect. Obviously, Keenum could fit in here. Maybe this is a different running back. This might not be Jade. These are just roster bubble guys. I think they both will be relatively safe. I think they both make the final roster. You might add another linebacker. It might be like Jones, who I thought had a pretty good game. You might add another left end, Daniel Hardy, somebody I really like. Yeah, we didn't really talk about a lot of these guys over here. Like we talked to some about this. J.P. Richardson, he was involved in special teams. I don't think he'll stick, to be honest. He might be a practice squad guy. Boykin, we didn't see. Stephen Carlson, we saw, but I wasn't really anything. Seeing Bates take snaps, yeah. The backup centers both took a step back. Theo Benedict did play. Not sure about McFadden. Zach Pickens did get a sack. Maybe he sticks. Maybe that's him instead of Chris Williams. Daniel Hardy did get a deflected pass at the line. Was also a captain. I don't really know how much to read into that, but he was a captain. Trey Flowers, like I said, it kind of just kept picking on him. Maurice Alexander had a touchdown. Deion Hankins had a touchdown. Carl Jones had a productive day at the linebacker spot, and Alex Cook had a fumble recovery. So those are really the names that I think kind of help their stock. But obviously you can't keep everybody. You would love to, especially if you got some tough decisions like you have at the quarterback position now. Does Case Keenum force your hand and make you keep 3 QBs? I don't know. That's kind of what they pay Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson to figure out, right? Anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.